It was a secret message hidden for over a century. By chance, engineers inspecting a Scottish lighthouse stumbled upon a 132-year-old message in a bottle, written by workers from another era. What did it say? And why was it left behind? Welcome to That's Life, I Swear. This podcast is about life's happenings in this world that conjure up such words as intriguing, frightening, life-changing, inspiring, and more. I'm Rick Barron, your host. That said, here's the rest of this story. The old Sentinel had done well. 200 years of warning ships from Scotland's dangerous southwestern ocean coast. It was time and long overdue for the Corswell Lighthouse, located in the small village of cour to get some tender loving care. When poking around during renovations and assessing the amount of work ahead of them, mechanical engineer Ross Russell stumbled upon something intriguing. Tucked away in a wall cavity of this historic lighthouse was a mysterious glass bottle, its contents enticingly visible but blurry to the eye. Taking great care, Russell and his team carefully chiseled a hole into the wall and extracted the bottle, and then quickly hid it down to gather with the lighthouse keeper at the tower's base. As they huddled around, they could see beneath a makeshift seal of corroded wire and weathered cork laid a message, handwritten in cursive. The worn-out paper gave even an amateur detective a sense that the bottle and paper had been hidden for quite some time. Secrets from the past were about to be revealed. Holding his breath, Ross took his hands and, with surgical precision, guided two cables delicately to extract history from the glass bottle. After much turning and twisting, the stubborn cork finally gave way from the top of the bottle. As Ross's team leaned over his shoulder, they saw time crystallizing into a single date scratched across the page. September 4th, 1892. A whisper from 132 years ago. Barry Miller, Corswell's current keeper of the lighthouse, recalled the moment. He was saying, "My hands were trembling like autumn leaves." Barry dropped everything when he heard about Ross's discovery to witness the moment. His voice still carried the day's electricity as he described reading the aged message aloud to his spellbound audience. The anticipation had been a little nerve-wracking. What tales lay trapped in those folded lines? A passionate romance, perhaps? The bitter words of a forgotten soul? Or maybe, as Miller joked with a gleam in his eye, we all agreed to take the secret to our graves if it turned out to be the path to buried riches. As it turned out, the bottle's secret wasn't gold or jewels, but to these modern-day lighthouse guardians, it was something far more precious. A handwritten time capsule from their professional ancestors, written just as they were finishing up the same Fresnel lens that needed attention that day. As Miller unfolded the letter, he began to read the words. James Wells, engineer, John Westwood, millwright, James Brodie, and David Scott were noted in the letter. The words danced off the aged paper, introducing a cast of characters from 1892 like old friends at a reunion. These men from James Minnell and Son Engineers in Edinburgh had spent their summer months, May through September. The lantern first blinked to life on a Thursday evening, September 15th, 1892. It should be noted that the team in charge of the lighthouse station at that time were John Wilson, principal, John B. Henderson, first assistant, and John Lockhart, second assistant. It was as if they knew we'd be here, Miller conveyed, his voice soft with wonder. Here we were tinkering with their handiwork, and suddenly they reached across time to tell us their story. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. Their lens, our hands, separated by nearly 13 decades, but connected by this message in a bottle. Miller expressed that it was so exciting it was like meeting their colleagues from the past. It was actually like them being there. It was like touching them, like them being part of our team instead of just four of us being there. We were all there sharing what they had written because it was tangible, and you could see the style of their handwritten note. Miller added one more thought that resonated with the crew that day. He stated that the crew from 1892 knew what they had done. They had taken the time and effort to hide the bottle where it wouldn't be found for a long time. Talk about a blast from the past. This wasn't just any scrap of paper. No, this was pure Victorian-era gold, written when Queen Victoria herself was still running the show in England across the pond, and America was gearing up to give Grover Cleveland another shot at the White House. Man, it hits differently, said Russell, the 36-year-old engineer, still buzzing from the discovery. He went on to say, you're standing here, listening to words some dude wrote down when your great-great-grandparents were probably still in short pants. My whole body went electric. Straight up goosebumps. He couldn't stop grinning as he added, sure, finding a message in a bottle washed up on shore would be wild enough, but stumbling across one tucked away in a lighthouse wall? That's next level cool. Proper old school Instagram, if you get what I mean. Best time capsule ever. Sometimes destiny whispers from behind old wood and plaster. Had the team not needed to peek at the support beams in the lighthouse, the bottle might have just stayed there, nestled behind that ancient cupboard, keeping its secrets for another century or more. Pure chance, said Russell. That's all that stood between finding it and letting it sleep on. Back in 1892, hoisting the massive Frenzel lens must have been quite the feat, the kind that makes workers want to leave their mark to whisper, "We were here," to the future. Did they dream their simple note would echo through generations? Well, echo it has. As news traveled through the Scottish Highlands and beyond, families have begun connecting dots in their ancestral tapestries. BBC Scotland reports that descendants of those long-ago craftsmen are discovering their own threads in this luminous legacy. It's not just about finding an old note, Russell reflected, his warm voice with appreciation. It's about watching these local families light up as they touch a piece of their past. That's the real treasure we uncovered behind those walls. Now, don't be fooled into thinking lighthouses are relics of the past. From the rugged coasts of Scotland to the shores of the Isle of Man, over 200 of these notable sentinels stand proud and active, their legacy preserved by the delicate souls at the Northern Lighthouse Board. These aren't museum pieces. They're working maritime heroes, maintained by an elite crew of engineers, technicians, and keepers who understand their vital mission. Just ask Barry Miller. He's not your typical ivory tower academic. For 2 decades, he's been the guardian of Scotland's southwestern beacons, and he'll tell you straight out, fancy GPS and radio signals are great, but there's no substitute for the pure, honest beam of a lighthouse slicing through the darkness. Essential? With the conviction of someone who's watched these ships navigate treacherous waters, absolutely essential. And he's right. When your ship is fighting through a storm, when electronics fail, when you're facing down nature's fury, those steady beams aren't just lights. They're lifelines. They're the difference between safe passage and disaster, marking the deadly dance of reefs and sandbanks that lurk beneath the waves. Like an ancient spell returned to its ancient tomb, the weathered bottle and its precious message now rest in Edinburgh's Northern Lighthouse Board Sanctuary, but not for long. The Whispers of 1892 will soon journey home to their secret chamber within Corswell's stone embrace, where time stood still for over 13 decades. But this time, they won't rest alone. A new vessel will join them, carrying fresh ink and modern names, a mirror across centuries, as today's lighthouse guardians weave their own thread into this tapestry of maritime history. We're casting our own message into the ocean of time, Miller said, his eyes distant with possibility. Somewhere in the midst of tomorrow, someone might discover both our stories, and the circle will be complete once more. So what can we learn from this story? What's the takeaway? The discovery of a 132-year-old message in a bottle was a poignant reminder of the human impulse to connect across time. Found hidden in the base of a lighthouse in Scotland, the note dated 1892 contained details of the workers' lives, work, and possibly their struggles or camaraderie during the project. These messages were often left as time capsules, a way for workers to mark their presence and share a piece of their humanity with future generations. The note was a gesture of goodwill to the unknown people who might someday discover it, sharing a snapshot of their lives and their era. For the engineers who found it, the message served as a bridge to the past, making them feel connected to the individuals who laid the foundation of the lighthouse over a century ago. It's a rare personal glimpse into the lives of people who lived in a very different time, yet shared similar aspirations, challenges, and dreams. This story reminds us that even the most ordinary workers can leave an extraordinary mark on history through simple acts of leaving behind just a note. Well, there you go, my friends. That's life, I swear. For further information regarding the material covered in this episode, I invite you to visit my website, which you can find on Apple Podcasts for show notes and the episode transcript. As always, I thank you for the privilege of you listening and your interest. Be sure to subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. See you soon.